folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to Look Back. This is where we take a look at reviews that I've done a year, 5 years, and 10 years ago, and tell you where I'm at with those games today, if anywhere. So let's start with a year ago. I wasn't really in the mood for donuts a year ago. I'm not sure why. Go Nuts for Donuts, which seemed in its looks and style to be a sequel to Sushi Go. It's not really. You're basically just saying, everyone simultaneously reveals, I want this donut, and then if no one else picks the same donut, you get to keep it and they're worth points. I did not like it. It just felt completely random. Donut Drive-Thru is a little worker placement style game about getting donuts that me and Melody just felt wasn't that great. It just felt like too basic, I think. Then Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, which I thought was okay. There's a lot of these roll and write games. This one is fine. It just felt like there's a little too involved. It felt a little too restrictive on what you could do. Harvest, I really like this little worker placement game from Tasty Minstrel. It feels like a much bigger game smashed into this box as you're placing things, getting in little crops and growing them. A really nice, I don't know, I just felt like there was a lot of cool ideas in this game. Deckscape Fate of London. I'm a big fan of the Deckscape series. There are escape rooms in a box. This one has, kind of a terrorist plot going on in the background. That was fun. And then the escape room in a box, the Werewolf Experiment. Now, interestingly enough, Melanie and I reviewed this game for the Kickstarter version, and then they have since made a more mass market version, which is, there's some differences, but this one has become, as time goes by, one of my favorites of this genre, if not my favorite one. There was some cool physicalities. There was something that made me laugh loud in the game. There was a lot of fun. I really like this one. All right, let's jump now 5 years ago. First, we have Chip Leader, which is just one of those games where there's just too much randomness going on in it for me with chips, and Take That, not really that fan of that kind of game at all anymore. Story War. I distinctly remember someone who I respected in gaming saying, you're going to love this Story War game. It's another storytelling game. My biggest problem with it is I'm not a huge fan of these storytelling games anyway, and this one came with so few cards, I just didn't like it. Then we have La Phantom de l'Opera, which is in the Mr. Jack series of games, and it's the best of the lot for me, which, as you can tell from my rating, means I'm not really a big fan of this series at all. Phantom Society, this is one person's playing a ghost, everyone else is trying to catch the ghost or hide from the ghost. It's an okay game, and as you can see, since you probably haven't heard of it, that's pretty much it. TF22, this back and forth game, which felt like, I'm not even sure if it was a Kickstarter, but looks like a Kickstarter. Maybe the name also is kind of forgettable. What does TF22 mean about delivering goods and things like that? Rule the Roost. This is an Odonauts game. And this is basically just moving cards around and things. Again, it's another one that is okay. Snake Oil. This is interesting because as far as I can tell, this is the last out-of-the-box publishing game that was produced. That company has since disappeared. And it's another one of those sell something games. Like, hey, you should buy this. And basically you're saying, I'm trying to sell some weird thing. And then who are you selling it to? Are you selling it to a surfer? Are you selling it to an elf or whatever it is? I like these games okay. This is not my favorite of the lot. This one is just okay, but a lot of people do like this one, and I think Mattel has it now and is still selling it in the mass market. Then we have Heart Switch, which is basically if someone said, hey, let's play Hearts, but let's have a bunch of extra rules in it. I'm not sure that the game of Hearts needed all those extra rules, but it's not a bad thing either. Curve Flip. This is a pretty interesting word game. The box itself is pretty cool, where you can, tiles that are used, you just hit in a hole and they fall down inside the box. Has some nice components. Word games are not always in my wheelhouse, but I thought this one was light and fun enough that I enjoyed it. Then we have Takeoko Collector's Edition. I'm still not sure what prompted the company to make a gigantic version of this game. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I still have it. It's in the Dice Tower library, Con library. It's big. Takeoko's a great introductory game. I really like it. I don't think you need this big collector's edition. The normal, regular version is fantastic as it is, but so be it. All right, 10 years ago, the Catan dice game. Talk about rolling right. They're really hot. 10 years ago, the Catan one came out, and I was not a fan of it. I felt like it was too samey each time I played it. I still think that today. Wizards Gambit. Interesting enough, I was watching my review of this one, and I was complaining and saying, this Wizard versus Wizard thing is overdone. Fast forward 10 years later, and I'm still thinking that. But it's just kind of a a little bit of a take that. Just it's very forgettable. Word Blur. This is it's a party game where you got to use a bunch of words on a table to make clues. I think Word Slam, which came out last year, is a much better version of this same style game. Toledo, this is about making swords. Sam Healy likes this game quite a bit. I am not nearly as big of a fan of it. I think it's okay. It's a very light game where you're just moving along a path and trying to get the swords and sell them, but it's one that I would not probably be that interested in playing nowadays. Let's see here. Maneuver. Now, this is a game that's gotten a lot of love, and a lot of people like it, and I am not disliking it, but I'm probably in the minority where this sort of thing doesn't interest me as much. The game is definitely about what it's called. It's about maneuvering your stuff around the board. It's not so much fighting. It's a little war game, but it's not so much about fighting the person as out-maneuvering them. I'm not as interested in that, but I will say that it is a decent, good game. It's just not as one that I'm interested in these days. Yahtzee Free For All. Yahtzee gets a bad rap. It's a good game. Yahtzee Free For All was a really cool edition of it, designed by Richard Borg, actually. And this one here was a much faster version. You roll dice. You're trying to get different things. You can steal them from other people, going back and forth. It's almost like competitive Yahtzee, which I liked. And then finally, Catan, Traitors, and Barbarians. This is one of the last main expansions for Catan. It seems like a while now. It's been 10 years since this has come out. It has some really good aspects to it. If you want a more story-driven Catan, as you're moving across a board and you're fighting off barbarians, and there's some trading aspects. So there's good things in this one and bad things. I don't play Catan as much these days, hence why this one drops. And if I do, I'm not sure I'm going to grab this particular module, but it is a good one and offers things, and I do like it even better than Cities and Knights. So those are the reviews that I did 1, 5, and 10 years ago. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been Look Back on the Dice Tower.